Hey anyone, I'm Faust and I'm going to be ranking the bosses of Hi-Fi Rush from worst to best based on my personal taste and experience. As viewers of this channel will not know, as this is the first video on it, Devil May Cry 3 to 5 are my favourite games of all time, along with Bloodborne and Hollow Knight. So when this thing released out of nowhere sporting exactly my kind of combat, air combos, and a style meter, I was extremely interested. Actually, viewers likely will know this, as the only people that are going to be here are those that know me IRL. Anyway, I love video games, my biggest passion being the pursuit of cool combat and awesome bosses, something that Hi-Fi Rush absolutely delivered on, along with likeable characters and genuinely funny writing. When it comes to bosses for me, the overall fun of the fight is of course the most important thing, which will largely come from the mechanics of the fight itself, generally followed by the visual design of the boss. But the arena, music, the boss's character, their story and lore, difficulty, and even placement within the game are all things that factor into the experience. Just to be very clear, this list is based on my taste, what I like and how I like to play. Also, I don't believe there's some inherent need to try to quantify entertainment or anything like that, rather I just find rankings to be far more fun and engaging than plain discussion, so this is much less about actually arguing who's better than who, and more just a vessel to rave about something I love. So anyway, we're going to be starting with... in fact, hang on. Does this guy count as a boss? I mean, he gets a cutting card thingy. Okay, well I'm sure nobody would consider this a boss, but if it was, it'd be last, because as far as I'm aware it's just any other WAES2 unit in a chef uniform. Not that there's anything bad about that, they're pretty cool to fight and this whole cafeteria section is just so awesome, but like, this isn't even the course finale. There's another wave of enemies after you beat this guy. Okay, so does Zanzo count as a boss? He is one of the Vandelay bosses, and he does have a health bar, of sorts. Alright, this isn't really a boss either, but I do think there's enough substance for the overall Zanzo experience to justify giving him a semi-serious spot on the list. From the moment we're introduced to him on the video call, which by the way is a fantastic way to introduce the bosses and effectively show us our hit list, it's apparent that he's going to be a very quirky character. As the eccentric head of R&D, our interactions with him fittingly involve him exercising his creative genius against us as we progress through test chambers and augmented reality rooms of escalating challenge and company expense. It's made abundantly clear that Zanzo has a reckless disregard for the actual cost of his impulsive creations, and taking advantage of this becomes the strategy against him, goading him into burning through his budget till there's nothing left to work with. We get this budget tracker and it's neat to see it take financial hits as we make our way through the level. It's a creative idea, I like it. With that said though, there's no actual boss fight here, just regular stage progression and enemy encounters. Well, with a little Magma Mania and a programmer thrown in. Also, the meter goes back up here due to the saved wage. It's brilliant. The lack of a boss is played for laughs though. After the AR finale we reach the man himself, attempting to unleash this big ass mech thing on us, only to run out of funds just too soon. The whole thing's very fitting for Zanzo's character and I'm definitely not complaining about it at all. But I do want boss fights, damn it, and considering there are no bad ones in the game, this honourable mention has to land here. Entertaining character still, dude even has a body pillow of himself in his office by the way, and I friggin' love the gift basket bit. Heyo! Big boss of production Rekka up next, the first department head that we deal with in the story and the first real boss on this list. Rekka's a fun introductory antagonist, she's a no pain no gain Joe Sargenty type, plenty of talk of crushing, smashing and all that. Rekka also refers to herself in the third person a lot.
Don't pin it on Rekka!
Which I find particularly entertaining, really completes the personality. Great visual design too, business meets wrestling, tells you pretty much everything about Rekka in an instant. Also I love that little coloured flick in her hair. She appears very frequently during her levels, which is great for building anticipation, and to nobody's surprise Rekka fights with her fists and body weight. The first phase is easy enough, her rate of attack is fairly slow, although the dashes did catch me a bunch at first, they're really fast, and parrying ain't a thing yet, though for whatever reason I was here trying to dash 2 to dodge them, like just jump, die. There's also the cartoony trope of Rekka stunning herself if she crashes into a wall too, which really fits the tone of the game and fight. The second phase is where things get spicy. It starts with Rekka exposing some cables in the centre of the arena, which you'll use to get some juice. In this charge state, any physical contact with Rekka outside of special moves will electrocute you and keep you locked in place. This is pretty cool and intimidating, but as far as I could tell you actually have to just wait out the buff, like just flee and use partner attacks. It didn't seem like there was anything proactive to be done, and this is a big no-no for me. There should almost always be something the player can be doing to progress the fight. If I'm wrong about this though, do let me know. Anyway, she'll eventually discharge the buff herself, either by converting it into a shield or by unleashing this arena-wide AoE, which you definitely want to dodge, because boy does it hurt! Incredibly telegraphed though, especially by the pair of magnet points that appear to help you stay airborne. Also, if enough time passes, she will return to the centre to recharge the buff, which is at least good for the sake of like, creating pressure and demanding efficiency. The cutscene leading into phase 3 is hype. The way Rekka arms herself with the pipes is badass and it gets you excited for what new moves she'll have. I was slightly disappointed with the little rhythm minigame here on my first time. It felt like it stunted that hype a bit. But unlike the other boss minigames, this one actually isn't preset and the pattern of attack will vary every time, making it arguably the best and most engaging on repeat fights. Rekka will now occasionally tear pipes from the walls to temporarily utilise for new attacks. I quite like that the actual motion of this can hurt us, I mean it's not a completely free window for damage, She'll drop the pipes if hit by a special attack, which is a nice little bit of counterplay. She'll also gain the Heavenly Wrecker Buster in this phase. This is another attack with a massive telegraph and similarly massive damage. It's certainly a fitting super move for a wrestler. Her thirst must have been quenched in phase 2, as she forgoes the juice for now, and this gives the player room to learn these new attacks. Once we get into the final phase though, it's all in. Now she'll be using every attack you've seen so far, and incorporating the charge state, and that buff plus dem pipes leads to this friggin' electro twister thing, which is freaking terrifying. Like, it's not really that hard to avoid, but I definitely feel the pressure every single time. It's just a little too fast to be comfortable with, and it goes on for ages. It's also really damn cool. Everything about this fight befits Rekka's character, and the way her moveset develops over the phases is fantastic. She does have my least favourite music out of all the bosses though, both tracks. They suit a beefy throwdown alright I suppose, but I just don't dig them. Another small issue that I don't think I experienced with any other boss was that Rekka's phases were stuck on 1 HP a few times. I think this has something to do with partner damage, as it only happened when I was spamming him like a graceless chump. I mostly stopped using regular partner attacks anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me now, but obviously they are part of the game, and when this occurs it's annoyingly unclear as to what exactly is happening or what you're supposed to do about it. Only minor complaints though, waiting out the charge state is my only real gripe. Overall, Rekka's a damn good boss. I just don't like her quite as much as the remaining bosses.
Where's Rekka?
Ah, Korsica, the beloved Scottish mommy waifu of the fairly horny fanbase. So one I'm right at home in. I'm also recommended Hades, I'll get round to it. She's the head of security at Vandelay, but it quickly becomes apparent that she's not quite in the same club as the other department heads, namely due to her limited access to Spectra, the whole bad guy plot thing that we're trying to foil here. We confront her about this, after being detained by her that is, yes please, and the subsequent levels feature us fighting our way through the security building while Korsica is preoccupied with something else, of course implied to be looking into this Spectra biz. It also comes to light that Korsica isn't outfitted with any Vandelay tech like the other bosses, and as a result doesn't have a passkey that we can steal, the whole reason we're going around taking names, meaning we have to actually find out what her password is. The team ruminate on this over the course of the friggin' nightclub leading up to her office, and combined with her apparent lack of awareness and involvement with Spectra, the prospect of talking things out comes up. This creates a lot of uncertainty and suspense about what's actually going to happen when we do reach her, especially considering we didn't end up having to fight Zanzo previously. For whatever reason, Korsica doesn't take too kindly to us dropping in without an appointment and quickly draws her weapons against us. And the music here is so good. And this low beat at the start of the standoff. Oof yeah. Anyway, things kick off with fighting game style health bars appearing, so it's obviously not a regular fight. What we do get is a very long sequence of rhythm parries to complete, the idea being that we just defend ourselves while trying to reason with Korsica and wear her out. I enjoy the rhythm parry mechanic, so I'm alright with this, and the unparryable attacks are introduced partway through which helps keep it interesting. It is really easy though, or at least I found it easy. I did my first playthrough on hard due to DMC background, and I died at least once to every other boss. Not this guy. But Korsica didn't even get through a third of my health bar. It's fine that it's easy. Bosses can absolutely be great even if they aren't difficult, as is the case here, but there was a noticeable lack of pressure. It's still really fun though, especially when she gets mad. The way everything ramps up with a health bar refilling, an intimidatingly long RP bar appearing, the music kicking back in, the arena going red, it's hype as hell. The musical traits of the arena are also much more pronounced and aggressive now to match. And this is actually the second occurrence of this arena state, but I feel like it just hits way harder this time. She'll also string multiple RP sequences together now, which really ups the tempo and they're super satisfying to do. The fight ends with a singular QTE, and I swear none of you are best to miss this, that has us catch Korsica as she complements our awesome musical robot powers. And should you fail this, you get a much deserved D here. Anyway, from here we politely abduct her so that we can carefully transport her back to the hideout, and through a completely peaceful series of events she ends up joining the team and becoming our third and final partner character. Really cool to have an antagonist and boss not only become an ally, but even a slightly playable character. Fun fight, good arc, likeable and attractive. It's not hard to see why Korsica's so popular. Gotta say I wasn't too sure about her voice and accent when I first heard her.
Get the Spectre nonsense out of your system.
But it definitely grew on me. I like her visual design and outfit. For whatever reason the boots are replaced by sneakers when she's changed sides. I like both looks, so whatever. But like, why the change? And where'd they come from? If they're in the hideout, are they peppermints? Anyway, easily distracted by aesthetics, especially women, and fashion, and shoes. Let me wrap up with a couple of small things that hold Korsica back for me. Main one is that she's not a regular boss fight, and we've gone a long time without one. I like what the fight actually is, okay, let me be clear. But we had awesome regular combat boss fights at the end of levels 1 and 2. Zanzo wasn't a real boss, and that's fine, but now we're all the way at the end of level 7 and still haven't had another regular boss yet. I can't say I wasn't a little disappointed. Kinda wish there was one normal boss somewhere between Zanzo and Korsica. Also, the rhythm parry sequences are always exactly the same regardless of the difficulty level. This is another case of this is fine, but with the but being that it does of course mean that the encounter will always play out exactly the same when replaying, and the game is built with heavy replaying in mind. Despite that, I do find that it remains a fun and satisfying sequence to play through. I mean, I originally thought that Corsica would surely have to rank below all the regular bosses. Not that a non-standard boss can't be a superior experience, but in a game with such fun freestyle combat and only good bosses, how could such a scripted fight possibly compete? But yeah, it does. I definitely can't go any higher though, this is where things get crazy. Cause like, how the fuck can this guy only be 4th? Alright, let me just get one thing out there. Every boss from here has been considered for 1st place. This is an extremely tight top 4, and one that really calls back to what I said at the start about this being less about the ranks and more about the discussion, because there is no definitive order to be had from here as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, let's start from the beginning here. The very beginning, because this dude's the first boss. The opening level of the game is really good. You very quickly get a taste of the combat, the world, and just the overall flavour of what the game's going to be. And I fucking loved all of it right away. At the end, we rock up to the Quality Assurance Centre and are met by Rekka, and all that's left at this point is to see what an actual boss is like, though it turns out not to be Rekka herself just yet. This intro is great, the platform rising and the music starting up, that low angle shot and the whole stuff's about to go down vibe. Then after a moment of suspense we're greeted by this! Dude's huge! Also that versus shot we get, yo that's so sick, kinda wish we got that for every boss. Also this camera angle as the fight starts, so good! I'm not even 5 seconds into the fight, and just on presentation alone I'm already like, oh hell yeah, this is the good shit. And it only ramps up from there. Man, I don't even know where to start with this dude, this boss does everything right. He's got a good varied moveset with great animations, everything feels big and powerful, but while being very manageable, and with new things added as the phases progress. And dude, the phase transitions are so hype. This first one where he goes full friggin' mecha overkill with all these weapons folding out, like yo, I've already done a quarter of your health mate. He'll always immediately use this awesome missile barrage attack here too. Love the try and dodge this with the multiple red threat markers appearing, it's all so damn cool. And look how animated he is. So much love went into crafting everything this guy does. His sweep attack can be accompanied by a missile from now, and I love when bosses' early moves get upgrades like this as the fight goes on. Keeps them relevant and keeps the player from getting comfy. The primary place to attack QA at first is his hands, and after enough damage we get this super cartoony QTE that has us launch his own fist into his face, shattering part of his armour? Casing? Whatever. Anyway, it's cool. And this revenge attack he does afterwards is so dirty, like there's no reading that first time around. After doing this with both hands, his face will now be fully exposed as a weak point, and this is humorously highlighted. The phase transition we get at the halfway point manages to be even cooler than the first one. Dude, this is so hype! That serious mode shot is so damn cool, and now he's got this electric biz going on, and both he and the arena have gone red. Guess that's just the power up alarm around here. His fist slams gain this delayed electric effect, tightening the windows to get hits in, another nice instance of a move upgrade. Also has this cool laser attack now, and I love the musical sound effects. Man, I didn't intend on talking about every single move this dude has, but while I'm at it, might as well mention the electric burst that he has actually had for the entire fight. Very typical long wind-up AoE, one that suits this boss well. If you're attacking the hands as intended, early on anyway, this should be no issue to dodge. But obviously if you're up close, as you're probably going to want to be once his face is runnable, it becomes a much more threatening attack. Very satisfying to parry, though we don't have that ability on our initial encounter. On the note of typical attacks, one thing I'm really not a fan of in any game that it appears in is the whole big dude slams arm, then leaves it there unnaturally long for you to get return hits in. I mean, it's kinda fine if there's the whole shtick of attacking with so much force that you get stuck in the terrain, but there's no help me step Rockstar here, he's just AFK! Well, I guess it's maybe supposed to be that the impact messed him up a little, like when you bash an electronic and it freezes or whatever. I suppose that's reasonable, and it's not like it happens every time he slams. But still, it does lead to him feeling boringly inactive at times, and this kind of thing is even more unjustifiable because it's not like we even need the windows. We can attack his hands just fine anyway. We've got air combat and stuff, damn it! On that note, despite being a sit off the edge of the arena type boss, a type that usually sucks by the way, QA is impressively mobile, and I really appreciate it. Seems minor when he's always going to be at the edge of a circular arena anyway, no room for variance, but it really makes the fight feel so much more dynamic. As far as this type of boss goes, he's easily one of the best I've ever fought. Quite possibly the best, but I've not really thought about it. Anything else I can nitpick to justify putting him in 4th? Oh yeah, in fact one thing he lacks compared to the remaining entries is character and story. Like he does have some personality at least, but just very basic, me tough guy, me smash. Fucking production department man. I guess I'm kinda mid on his music too. I mean I like it, but I don't love it. Wild crazy criticism. Really scraping the barrel here, and I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but I always have this tiny flicker when wrecking his left side. Oh no, my immersion in the gutter. Alright, that'll do, this guy's fucking amazing. Absolutely fantastic first boss, great moveset, not some giga basic piece of trash, good spectacle and exciting fight. I could tell I was really going to like this game as early as the first scrap, but it was fighting QA1 Mill that really had me like, oh yeah, this is definitely going to be awesome. This is how you open a game, this is how you get people hyped as fuck for what's to come. QA sets the bar high, and the game delivers. He's pretty much flawless really, and if this was a more critical ranking, like trying to be as unbiased as possible or whatever boring bullshit, he'd probably be first. But it ain't, and while part of me did want to put him in first, I can just feel it in my music player that he's got to go here. He's just not quite as engaging or fun as the remaining bosses. And that's especially important when people, or at least me, are potentially going to be refighting them a lot. Also the lack of story weight. But hey, he's just the quality assurance guy, and I was most definitely assured. And how can this guy be third? This is Kale Vanderlei!
Is this some sort of joke?
We first see Kale during the opening cutscene. He's the CEO of Vanderlei Technologies, and right away you can tell that this dude is the big bad and quite likely the final boss. He's just got that Handsome Jack frenemy vibe, that greetings simpletons energy. I freaking love Handsome Jack by the way, and I love Kale too, just cool characters. I dig his look. I'm really not a suit guy, though I suppose that's regarding boring normie suits. This is actually stylish, and has some character. And that character is very much Darth Bossman. We find out pretty early on that Vanderlei has some shady mind control scheme in the works called Spectra, and the game's plot revolves around that. Though the general assumption is something to the effect of creating an army of soldiers or slaves or, you know, that kind of thing.
What are you talking about? That's not my plan.
Whereas the reality turns out to simply be that he wants to manipulate people's purchase decisions.
Do you have any idea how difficult it is to make something people actually want to buy? It's ridiculously hard!
Man, Kale's such an entertaining character. He mostly comes across as a cool, collected, badass mastermind, businessman villain. He's got the look and swagger, though he constantly has these small hilarious snaps when some minor thing annoys or frustrates him, such as being unable to get his coffee.
Coffee machine's only putting out decaf, sir.
What?
He's just so unintentionally funny. This carries on even into the final confrontation, which begins with him using Spectra to control Chai.
Chai would never say that.
Yeah, well, that's the point. I'm controlling him.
This leads to us, in a very surprising twist, getting to play as 808 to start this fight off. This is a pretty bold and creative choice, and I was very much behind it. We've had 808 by our side for the whole game, so it's cool to get to play as her. It's also just so in keeping with the joviality and campiness of the game, like we're here starting off the final boss running around as a cat. Sadly though, there's not really anything here. We simply have to close the distance on Kale while avoiding the waves of fire he throws out, and most of the time this is extremely easy. I'm talking a single double jump. But I find every once in a while it'll pop off with the most absurdly perfect casts that feel genuinely undodgeable. Then maybe I just need to work on my 808 gameplay. Anyway, upon reaching him we'll get a single QTE, then he'll jump to the other side of the arena and we repeat the process with the exact same QTE at the end. And that's it. 808 breaks his Spectra gizmo and we regain control of Chai.
What a pain in the ass. You know what? Let's take this outside.
Okay, now for the real fight. And with how much this game has in common with DMC, it was impossible for my mind not to think of Virgil here. And hell yeah, give me that badass duel, that final showdown with a similarly capable opponent that really tests the mechanics you've been learning all game. He's even got these 4 little drones reminiscent of summon swords, and a similar coat, and similar hair. On account of both this and the fact that the entire game had been fucking incredible, my excitement and expectations were damn high. I'm gonna refer to this as the first phase, seems most people do. The 808 section ain't really a proper fight phase and it ain't included in Rhythm Tower. Kale's got a decent amount of moves here, all of which are fun to play against. He's got a bunch of regular sashes and combos, including this one particularly long string which definitely took me way longer than it should have to learn to fully parry. Really satisfying to do though. I love his electric pillars attack, or whatever you want to call it. The visuals and sounds are sick. And I think I'm maybe a little partial towards pillar attacks like these anyway. I feel like they're usually pretty fun to dodge. Can be parried too, of course. The drone rhythm attacks are neat. They're like a little rhythm parry sequence. The drones will blink and chime in a rhythm, indicating the attack pattern. You can attempt to dodge these like any other attack. However, if you successfully parry the whole thing, it'll instantly break his stun gauge, which is very low risk, high reward. These did wreck me a bit at first, mostly because I was too preoccupied trying to beat down on him, but they quickly became easy openings. They're satisfying to do, and it's nice that there's a bunch of different patterns. Singular drones will also target us every now and then, easy enough to notice and deal with, but these two can catch you off guard when you're busy with everything else, especially early on when you're still learning his moves. It's a nice little extra thing. Overall, this is a fun, fast-paced duel, good mechanics and difficulty level, and a great first phase of the final battle. What ain't so great though is the second phase. Here Kael unveils 4 robotic tentacle limbs arms, the upper of which provide him with G-shielding. It quickly becomes apparent that the arms correspond to our partners. When he prepares to attack with the blue or red arms, calling in Peppermint or Corsica respectively will incapacitate him, providing a window to do damage and eventually destroy him, taking a chunk out of Kael's health too. He specifically blocks with the upper arms when you attack him in neutral, so I assumed this was the play, attack him and then call in Macaron. But after trying again and again and again and again and again and again, evidently this was not the play. Can't break through it with specials either. Eventually I realise there is a specific Macaron counter move too, it just functions differently to the other two. Mac doesn't interrupt this attack, you call him in after it completes. And he can miss entirely, which happened the first couple of times and only added more confusion when even this didn't seem to be working. No, you have to be positioned so that he'll specifically hit the hands, which is easier said than done after dealing with the attack itself, and on top of that it takes more than one cycle for him to be incapacitated. Alright, this is all well and good, figured out what to do. Problem is this still just leaves a really boring fight. He's invincible outside of countering these attacks, so it's just a case of waiting around for him to use them. And this can sometimes be upwards of 20 seconds. You're even punished, effectively, for trying to attack him, because he'll take up this defensive stance, which simply means more waiting. If you happen to break the upper arms while any of the others remain, then this will remove the invincibility. However, if you then proceed to beat down on him without going through the intended arm breaking system, he'll just go ahead and pull Giga Heals out of nowhere anyway. Like I said earlier in the vid, there should almost always be something proactive for the player to be doing, and this phase is just devoid of that. If I'm missing something here, do let me know, because with my current understanding, I would honestly call this the worst part of the entire game. This is the final boss, for fuck's sake, and this phase totally kills the momentum and hype. It's bad enough even when you know what you're doing, but it especially sucked first time round due to all the time spent trying to work out what to do, and it really didn't help that my first playthrough was with the licensed music, because damn, the part that plays during this phase is so repetitive. Only part of the game where I dislike the music. It's fine in streamer mode, Inner Blink rocks. It's a nice idea to have a phase in the final fight that incorporates the partners and makes it a little more of a team effort and a little less Chai versus the world, but clearly this was not it for me. Maybe his attack rate could have been faster, and or drop the regular moves that can't be partner countered, although this one with the double swipe's really cool. Also, the window to interrupt the blue and red arms is gigantic, so I almost never saw these attacks go through even on my first time round. Certainly never see them now. I feel like they should be more like the upper arms, where you have to deal with an attack plus counter it with the correct partner. Alright, well that's enough negativity. I think I'm actually going to need to take a moment to bring my mind and mood back to the right place. I just sang QA1 Mill's praises and claimed that everything from there on had been considered for first place, so obviously I think Kael does enough right to heavily offset the second phase. Frankly, he does everything right except the second phase. And while I said that it may well be the worst part of the game, his final phase is possibly the best part of the game. Dude's motivated! It's pretty much phase 1 but turned up to 11. And I fucking mean 11, not 10. I don't mean, oh, it's a reasonably enhanced version of phase 1. No, this shit's nuts! The difficulty spike here was bonkers, to the extent that I even knocked Kael for it slightly. The whole game up to now has had a very comfortable difficulty curve, at least in my experience, but this was something else. I died about the same amount of times here to this final phase as I did across the entire game prior. There was no pick-me-up usage in this playthrough. Everything is amped up in this phase, and the tempo of the fight is so high, it's so overwhelming at first. His Helmbreaker now has a follow-up, the pillars are now significantly wider and create patches of fire, making the dodge timing much tighter. He gains this new attack where he calls down bolts all around him before unleashing friggin' arena-wide slashes, which are dope as hell. And on top of all this, the drones now target us with much higher frequency, and sometimes 2 at a time. It's so much to learn and read and react to. It's so damn fun though. I got absolutely destroyed at first and was mind blown at just how crazy this was compared to anything before it in the game. Of course, kept fighting and fighting, and hopefully you all know that feeling, the one where you start slowly doing better and better, each attempt getting that health bar down further and further, learning the attacks, finding the responses, reacting more and more consistently. This is that good stuff. This is what it's all about, that hype, the excitement, the challenge, that feeling of improvement and getting closer and closer to the win, the fun, the fucking fun of fighting a friggin' amazing boss. This is one of my favourite things in the world. This fight only got more fun as I got better at it too. It's just such a playground. Definitely feels like the most loose fight in the game, by which I mean the amount of free-flowing variance there is to it, both in terms of how Kael behaves and the amount of options that we have at any given time, which is only amplified by the speed of this light show of a fight. This may not have applied initially, but after spending a lot of time with Kael, there's no doubt in my mind that his final phase is by far the most fun fight of the entire game. If there's anything at all to complain about aside from the difficulty spike, it's, funnily enough, the easiest thing about him. The drone rhythm attacks don't change from the first phase. I really wish these got longer, or were just harder in some way. With everything else going into overdrive, these really stand out as a somewhat free opening. They're still fun, but yo, let's get like 7+ beats in here or something? The individual drone shots felt like an obnoxious extra burden at first. Like, fucking hell, is he not hard enough without these? But it is really satisfying once you're able to deal with them on top of everything else. Upon finally beating this phase, there's a rhythm parry to complete while the platform descends back down to the Spectre control room. And after that, there's a neat sequence where the party members take turns comboing Kale with us, which is a nice way to involve everyone, Rip Cinnamon, in finishing him off. Kale's a great character and great final boss. This is very me specific, but to an extent he was perhaps in the shadow of Virgil when the fight began, though this definitely had benefits. His first phase is solid and gives us at least some level of baseline preparation for the batshittery to come. It's a damn shame about the second phase, really holds the overall fight down. Then of course the third phase hits and is an absolute rush, a mechanical masterpiece, and Kale is certainly not in anybody's shadow after that crazy party. As far as these kind of 1v1 dually sword fighty bosses go, he's up there with the best of them, and as a nice bonus his boss fight is an entire level of its own, meaning you can rematch Kale whenever you like without having to play through a stage first. Man, these bosses are so good! Though I'm actually going to start this one on a negative.
Finance guy.
What's his name? Roquefort?
Roquefort.
Roquefort appears the least out of all the Vandelay department heads, and to me is also the least interesting of the bunch. Or perhaps more specifically, he generated the least interest. He doesn't have as bombastic a personality as the others,
Do you want me to reschedule this?
instead being more of a level-headed and business-focused guy. He's the stereotypical only interested in money and profits type. Fitting for the head of finance, but it's tunnelled on a little too hard for me. Anyway, this coupled with its fewer appearances meant that I just didn't have the same level of anticipation for Roquefort as I did with the other bosses. Plus after Zanzo and Corsica, there's no guarantee there's even going to be a real boss, you know, the kind I want most. I can definitely see this being completely different for others though. All of this does make him the most mysterious of the lot, which of course can be a strong source of anticipation and curiosity. It just didn't happen to be the case for me. That said though, Roquefort being a more unassuming character is intentional and does pay off heavily. Hell, the game even highlights it when approaching his office.
This guy looks like a total pushover.
I dunno, Chai. Roquefort had a bad rep around the office. Something about a wolf in sheep's clothes.
Keep that confidence in check, Chai.
Can see whose wavelength I was on. After checking out his fancy as fuck office, we stroll up to his desk. You can see his feet don't reach the ground by the way, bless him. And he too calls us out.
Well, tell me how it feels to underestimate someone.
The music choice here took me by surprise. In a good way. The imposing tone immediately starts building tension and excitement as space for a fight is made. But even then I was not ready for this incredible transformation sequence. I wish I had reaction footage because holy shit, my jaw was wide open watching this guy that I had no particular expectations for transform into a gigantic mecha beast, and the music and rhythmic sound effects really enhanced it. Like yo, I can't possibly overstate how friggin' hyped I was here. I do love me some large monster fights, when they're done right anyway, so my excitement was through the roof. And this leap over shot is so cool. Love that wow 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 wow.
You wanna get that tail? You gotta get through me.
Alright, onto the fight itself. And Roquefort is surprisingly fast. Well, maybe not so surprising for a werewolf dude, but surprising for such a big dude. I found his attacks pretty hard to read and learn. His movements are all so swift and his attacks come out so quickly. But it helps that everything he does is strongly aligned with the music. Like obviously everything lands on the beat, but I feel like that aspect of the game is exceptionally pronounced here. And it was also here that I realised just how unique and cool this aspect really is. It's a whole other design and balance plane to be working with. Like without it, I'd possibly be criticising Roquefort's telegraphs for being too short. But to an extent, the music itself is a telegraph. It's so fucking cool. Man, I love video games. I mean, perhaps you could argue it's not that much different to any other use of audio cues. Anyway, on another game mechanics note, the existence of the magnet link is what allows Roquefort to be so mobile and without being frustrating. Dude dots around the arena a lot, and it's friggin' cool. Even if nothing's really being achieved, it just adds energy to the fight and makes him feel more powerful and intimidating. Grapple mechanics are by no means anything new or innovative, but the inclusion is what facilitates his awesome agility. Once you get him low, his wolf form will retract and he'll be left fleeing in his human form. This is by far the biggest thing that weighs him down for me. He has no attacks here and it's just a case of chasing him down and wailing on him, which is both boring and potentially annoying, as even in this form he's nimble and it feels like most attack strings give him a window to escape. I wouldn't mind if it was brief, but after some damage he'll throw up a barrier, so you gotta break that, then hit him some more. Then he'll whip out some Z-shielding, so now you gotta break that, then hit him some more. And cause he's so agile, it's easy for Macaron to miss, forcing you to wait around for another try. And cause he has no attacks, you can't parry counter. This whole thing really tanks the momentum of the fight for me. There is some counterplay to be had. You can break the shielding with a special attack. It's also possible to keep him locked down with jam combos. Of course, both of these cost reverb, but at least the options are there. We get a pretty sweet cutscene after this. The way he transforms back into wolf form while charging at us looks so cool. And that hit, oof! And then that voice. Yo, okay. Another freaking sick shot right here, and it's really cool that the fight moves from the office to within the vault. The main difference in this phase is the addition of the big bad wolf attack. Rookfor lets out a shockwave with a howl that initiates a rhythm minigame that sees him lock tornadoes with Corsica. It could have been a little harder, but it's neat that it involves a teammate, and it'll leave him stunned upon successful completion. This move is guaranteed. The shockwave can't be dodged or parried, not even with the invulnerability granted by specials. In fact, it will just cancel specials entirely, and as expected with this guy, there aren't any refunds. The shockwave begins with almost no warning too, though it will only ever come out on the final note of the... A really nice thing about a large enemy like Rookfor is we're able to utilise our entire moveset at all times. Can use ground and air combos, and we can flow between them as we please. It gives us a lot of freedom and flexibility, and that's always going to feel good. Although sadly that could barely apply any less to human form Rookfor, which he reverts back to again when low. Admittedly, it's a lot better this time around. He'll vent to the opposite side of the arena and throw up a laser wall with some security drones, which is all of course wonderfully fitting with the whole bank vault theme we've got going on here. There's an opening in the wall that moves around a few times before settling, and once we're through it's just a case of bashing his head in again, except this time without any of the shield BS, so it's significantly less annoying. If enough time passes, this whole sequence will repeat, but it's an adequately enjoyable one and I don't feel like it kills the mood like in the first phase. Also, if you're close enough, you can get through the wall with power chord, or just surf straight through it with guitar ride. The cutscene here ain't quite as cool as the preceding one, though I did love seeing the cartoony Ocean of Gold style vault, and it's awesome to get yet another arena switch. Also, this is a good line from Rookfor here.
I put my stock in future, but not yours, kid.
Oof. There's also something I really like here about his transformation taking place in real time. It's just really cool to see it with the full camera freedom, though I slightly dislike that it gives us a couple free seconds to damage him, especially seeing as I'd already like him to have a little more health. Anyway, the fight taking place in here now is such a spectacle. On visuals alone it's magnificent, and with every movement and or attack from either of us there'll be splashes of coins and the constant jingling is really immersive. These splashes even function as an extension of Rookfor's attacks, as his swipes will hurl waves of coins, and this is a positively inspired way to bestow an upgrade. He gains a major new move in this phase too, this one where he dives into the coins. He will then proceed to burrow? Swim? Towards us? Give me them mooks in marketing! He'll aggressively strike at you from below the surface while impervious to retaliation, as far as I'm aware. He'll come at you a few times before going for a targeted dive, which does hella damage. I found this all pretty hard to deal with and couldn't tell what I was supposed to be doing. The move loops, so there must be something, though he will simply resurface after a few cycles. This is another case where the attack is fairly unclear and hard to read in my opinion, but it does still follow a strict musical rhythm. I found the solution completely by fluke, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case for many. When he's attacking from beneath the surface, there'll be gold mounds and statues bursting up. I assumed all of these were just to convey the sense of being stalked and attacked from below, especially with this fist punching up at us, with all these things just being for flavour and variance. But if you hang near said fist, well. Another nice cartoony injection into what's honestly a pretty hardcore fight. Man, I keep saying cartoony. Faust don't pick the adjectives. Well actually yeah he does. He's freaking crap at it. What's a synonym for cartoony? Thesaurus. Cartoon. Is it even a real word? No!
What?
Anyway, this is a most humorous inclusion and leaves Rookfor understandably dazed and open to attack. There's no human form this time when he gets low, instead we get another big bad wolf sequence, and this one's significantly busier and more fun than the phase 2 version. Definitely one of the more satisfying rhythm segments in the game. And after that he's still ready to keep going, really showing just how strong this dude is. According to the model viewer, Rookfor's wolf form is powered by his own anger, and attacking it will only make it more aggressive and powerful. The fight only ends when the Q3 earnings are delivered right on top of him. Alright, let's wrap this one up. Overall, Rookfor is an absolutely badass boss. The main negative for me is that the first phase human form section is really bad, although chasing him down in either of them can suck. I don't mind the idea. In fact, it's a great way to facilitate the transition cutscenes, as well as convey the "I get knocked down" aspect, but I'm not a fan of the execution. I also don't really care for his character, and the lack of screen time certainly doesn't help, but it did play into the whole wolf in sheep's clothing angle and it made the transformation reveal even better. I gotta emphasise again just how friggin' blown away I was here. The whole thing's one of my favourite boss intro cutscenes of all time for sure. Unbelievably hype. And for the most part, we get an exhilarating spectacle of a fight against a friggin' huge mecha werewolf across an incredibly cool progression of arenas. Oh, he's also at the end of one of the best levels in the game, but that also means you can't immediately rematch him on a whim like with the adjacent entries, so it's hard to weigh that up. And first place for me and my favourite boss in Hi-Fi Rush is the face of Vandelay Technologies, Mimosa.
What a delicious evening.
She appears in the opening cutscene, so we know of her right from the start, but it was the video call that really got me interested. We've just beat Rekka, taken down one of the department heads, and Mimosa's reaction to this is,
Oh, now this is a juicy meeting.
oof, that voice by the way. And Purple, but yeah, said a lot about her character, and ooh was I excited. I like her visual design too. Corsica's the main waifu, but I'd more than welcome Mimosa Domina anyway. She doesn't show up again till the Armstrong Festival, where she's similarly entertained upon learning that Corsica is now on our side.
Corsica? Ooh, what a twist.
It's also during this level that we see just how comically vain she is, fitting for the head of marketing, a very image and attention focused role. She's the main event at the festival, which is supposed to be a celebration for those who took part in Project Armstrong. Hey, so I guess that is technically us? But it's debatable as to how relevant that is compared to Mimosa simply wanting to showcase herself. Obviously we need to crash this party, and after some backstage shenanigans, mate, the whole left shark bit is so good, so perfectly silly, I fucking love this game. Anyway, yeah, we burst onto the stage in all our stylish glory, and though momentarily pissed, Mimosa, the entertainer that she is, quickly realises the potential for a performance. Man, I love her smug attitude and confidence. Mimosa likes a show, and so do I, that's why I'm here playing. So of course I had a lot of anticipation for this fight.
Now hit!
And boy did it deliver! Right off the bat, 3 things. 1. That music, so different but so fitting. 2. This presentation! Dude, look at this stage! The lights, the crowd, Mimosa herself flying around on those awesome looking wings. What a spectacle! And 3. A real boss fight. The last one was Rekka back on level 2. This is level 9 now, so I was hella thirsty, and my hype levels were soaring higher than Mimosa's ego. I will bring it down for a moment though and quickly cover a few things that I could see some players not liking about this fight. First is Mimosa herself flying around. Because she tends to be in constant motion, she'll often move out of our air combos, and it can perhaps be unfun having to keep up with her and not getting to land those beat hits. Second is the shield she has. Mimosa's invincible most of the time, only susceptible to damage for a few seconds upon breaking a stun key. This is very similar to Kale, but he does still take damage, if minor, at all times, so every hit feels like you're at least making some progress, and even though there's effectively very little difference really, I feel like there's maybe just a mental thing here where the shield might feel like a chore. The last thing, and this is a major one, is that partners can absolutely trivialise this fight. I'm talking Black Knife Tish levels of easy mode. Partner attacks will chew through Mimosa's shield like Zanzo through funds and can keep her stun locked for more or less the entire fight, regardless of difficulty level, which is of course the complete opposite of fun and engaging. I mean, partner attacks will make anything in the game significantly easier, but this is a ridiculously strong instance. Partner spam on Mimosa results in the easiest and most boring boss in the game, but without partner usage, Mimosa is arguably the hardest and evidently in my opinion best boss in the game. It's difficult to factor in things like this, things that have the potential to ruin the experience for players. I at least want to mention stuff like that, but I'll mostly give priority to whatever my playstyle and preference facilitates. And like I said way back when, I mostly stopped using the partner attacks anyway, so this is a non-existent issue for me. Regarding the other 2 things, I like the air movement. We have 2 means of keeping up, air dash and maglink, and I find it fun trying to optimise damage against her while trying not to be repetitive with attacks. Also don't mind the shield at all. As far as I'm concerned, wearing down the stun gauge is no different to wearing down a health bar. If anything, it just adds pressure to be fast and efficient because the damage doesn't stick. On that note, she also has a rhythm laser attack, similar to what Kale has, where if we parry every beam it's a guaranteed gauge break, so that also reduces the work needed. It's always the same pattern here, but that's fine. It's a precursor to Kale's enhanced version. It's still a really cool attack, love the visual and sound effects, and it's fun to engage with. The singing attack is similar and does have variations, with the notes pulsing to indicate the attack pattern. This one doesn't auto gauge break though. Creative move and definitely requires a bit of attention, especially as the notes have a delayed second hit to be mindful of. Other notable attacks are this large energy orb blast thing, which comes out of friggin' nowhere. The telegraph on this is incredibly short and it needs to be a conditioned reaction really, which I feel I should criticise a little, but it's damn satisfying to react to successfully, so I sorta like it. On the opposite end there's the grab, which has a very clear telegraph. Looks cool as fuck by the way her wings shape into menacing claws. This one has strong tracking and is best off jumped over, so naturally it caught me an embarrassing amount of times. Second phase kicks off with everything going dark, with spotlights dotted around the stage. One of these will turn purple after a moment, and this is where we'll find Mimosa. The blue ones simply include non-hostile assistants that can be ignored. She lacks the shield during this sequence and will respond to any damage with a long wind-up swipe before resetting the lights. This seems mechanically boring and repetitive on paper, but I actually find it enjoyable. carried by the presentation maybe? And it only lasts for a few cycles, so it's like a minigame break between the main phases, I suppose. Mimosa regains her shield and will throw out a shockwave similar to Ropefer's that initiates Vandelay's side story. This move causes waves of assistance to spawn that will blanket a large section of the stage in flames. There was a warning earlier that pyrotechnics were going to be involved. Their behaviour is preset, so they're simply an arena hazard rather than active enemies, and they're easy to play around. Gotta say, it's pretty damn sick comboing Mimosa in the air above the flames, really putting on a show here. And just be careful when using the Magling, sometimes it'll troll your hair. Also, these dudes just blow themselves up when they're done. The hell? Going back to the start though, unlike Big Bad Wolf, Vandelay's side story can be dodged and parried. If you do, she'll mostly just try again and again till it lands, but it is possible to get through the entire phase while constantly avoiding the shockwave, and it feels so good to pull off. It's so damn cool that it's even a thing. Could have easily just been a forced transition, but instead we get this extra room for extremely satisfying skill expression. After phase 2 we get like a rhythm duel minigame where we compete for the crowd favour. I really enjoyed this first time round, but with it being both very long and very easy, I'd have thought it'd have been annoying having to play through it every time I fight her, which has been a lot. But it ain't. I think just because the music is so good, and the patterns themselves feel fairly fun to input. Then phase 3 starts and everything really ramps up. The stage is even more lit up now and everything looks fantastic. She'll always open with Equalizer Wave, another shockwave initiation which traps us in a box as waves of music bars flow towards us. To escape this domain, we need to call in our teammates to prime these orb things, then destroy them ourselves while dealing with the oncoming waves. It can all get pretty hectic. Quite a fitting move with the whole angle of putting on a show. Has that dance for me feel to it as Mimosa makes us panic and squirm, though I can definitely see some players finding this move particularly annoying. Like Vandelay's side story, you can dodge or parry it though, and unlike VSS, she won't immediately recast this one. Given that she always uses it at the start, it's really easy to avoid, though she will reuse it every couple of minutes and it's much harder to dodge on reaction alone when you aren't prepared for it. With all that said though, breaking out of the Equalizer Wave also breaks the stun gauge, so maybe you'd prefer that anyway. I love this kind of thing in a boss fight. Choices. Do I avoid it and just carry on with the fight, or do I want to deal with the minigame and get that guaranteed damage window at the end? No right or wrong, just up to the player. Although from watching others play, it seems like I'm about the only one that prefers to avoid it. Few more additions in this phase. Her rhythm lasers now feature a disco ball emitting additional lasers to limit movement. Doesn't do a whole lot if you just want to idly parry the attack, but damn does it look good. Man, the visuals of this fight are spectacular. She also gains another impressive laser attack which locks onto our location and unleashes streams that lightly track us. Took me some time to get the dodge timing down on this one. Can parry it too, of course. She'll now sing 8 notes instead of 4, adding a lot more variations to this attack and making it a lot more threatening. The grab gets a really dirty upgrade. There are a couple of times where I parried it, only to be immediately grabbed after anyway, and I'm just like, okay miss. But yeah, it turns out she'll just straight up go for it a second time in this phase. I believe the last new move is this one where she swoops across the stage in short bursts, and this attack is hella scary. She leaves lingering hitboxes in her wake, so dodging and parrying can both result in taking damage still. And even though we're safe in the air, the attack goes on for a short while, so you gotta stay airborne while knowing she's there zooming around underneath you. The fight concludes with a pair of rhythm parries, my favourite in the game. The rhythms go so well with the music, and the scene itself, this camera angle, just so damn good, dude. Then we finish Mimosa off with a launcher that can compete with Skyrim Giant. What a show! Every aspect of this fight is made for maximum spectacle and I fucking love it. Mimosa was probably my most anticipated boss, and the boss fight drought prior to her only served to amplify my enjoyment of the encounter. I had Fast As You Can playing first time round, and I do like it, but My Hot Feels No Pain is so much better and definitely my favourite boss track in the game, and that's saying something. Also, does Mimosa have the best Vandelay tech? Tough contest with Ropefer, but yo, Mimosa can fly! Plus there's the shield, and the tech doesn't appear particularly invasive, like I do wonder how much of Ropefer is still human. Anyway, like KO, Mimosa's fight gets an entire level dedicated to it, near enough. So she too can be fought as much as you like, whenever you like, and that's much appreciated. From a critical standpoint, I do see a few issues with Mimosa. She has multiple moves that lack clarity and or feel like they perhaps come out too quickly, which I feel can only really be learned through exposure and repetition. But because of how much I like Mimosa and how much I fought her, I did learn and develop the appropriate reactions, and you feel like such a slick beast when you can fairly consistently react to some of these fast moves. It's definitely one of the many reasons I love Mimosa. Kel was without contest the hardest boss to get to grips with, well the third phase anyway, but in terms of total mastery of the fight, Mimosa has the highest ceiling in my opinion. I can understand why some players aren't a fan of this fight, but for me, Mimosa is one of my favourite characters, delivers an amazing experience, and is my favourite boss in Hi-Fi Rush. Now I want some merch! I want this poster! I do know someone that has a printing company. Get me a high-res image! I want her passkey as a USB stick or external drive or something. I do know someone with a 3D printer. Get me all the passkeys! Get me a damn scrub vacuum cleaner! Maybe I can decorate one myself. Man, what a fucking awesome game, and Jesus Christ, this has ended up being way longer than I intended. Maybe went a bit hardcore on the rambling. It's just so easy to do when you love something. I probably wouldn't normally feature as much out of boss fight content as I did here, but being a pretty character heavy game, with most bosses getting a good amount of screen time and dialogue, things like personalities and storylines factored in more than they usually would, compared to most things I play. But yeah, this is the flavour of vid I want to make. Well, the main one anyway. I don't know, heavily biased analysis / discussion, because it's the kind of content I like to watch. Part of me did worry I'd diminish my own enjoyment of the game by looking at everything so closely and maybe getting nitpicky, as well as having to force a ranking, especially when the top 4 are all similarly incredible, and not that any of the bosses aren't great. I actually found the opposite though. Playing over and over and paying such close attention only made me love the game even more as I kept discovering new things, and probably still miss stuff or I'm wrong about some things. Cool little details, neat mechanical interactions, helps that it's just such a damn fun and replayable game anyway, with its awesome combat and amazing bosses. Everything about this game just has so much love behind it. Hi-Fi Rush comfortably and very deservedly joins the previously mentioned DMC, Bloodborne and Hollow Knight as one of my absolute favourite games of all time. In the event that anyone not only showed up to the venue in the first place, but also stuck around to the very end here, thanks! Like damn, this was a long vid. I really appreciate anyone that took the time to check this out. Now let me know your ranking order, who your favourite bosses are and why, especially why, or just any opinions you want to share. As I'm sure is painfully clear by now, I just love talking about this stuff.
Are you done?
Yes?